Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gavel Gang Podcast, an insight into the collections we get here at Ewbank's Auction House in Surrey. Hello, welcome back to another podcast. It's been a long time since the last one, and that's because we've been so busy.
Nice to see you, John.
Yeah,
and,
you too.
Nice to catch
Nice to
up.
actually sit down.
Yeah, it's been an incredibly busy year. Shall I just tell you how many auctions we've had this year? We're not quite finished yet. We've got another 2 to go, but 86 auctions this year, which is a record for us.
86. Wow.
28,000 lots we've offered for sale, which is a record for us this year. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's been non-stop.
Any one particular department had more than others?
I mean, there's a large quantity of comics, which is a new department for us this year that Thomas Doomer's been running, and it has been flying, and consignments in, and we've had sales every 2 months and hundreds of lots. There's one going on right now, and there was about 500 lots in that auction. So it's been, it's been flying.
Yeah, comics had I'd say, if I remember correctly, when it all began, a bit of a quiet start,
Yeah.
and then it sort of rolled along, and like a snowball, it's gotten bigger and bigger. So
Yeah.
they're very much here to stay and pretty popular, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And obviously the real value is in the American comics, but there are plenty of valuable early British comics as well, and Thomas will be able to say more about that. But it's been steadily increasing. The average lot value's been going up sale by sale, and that's just a case of bringing the buyers on board. And it dovetails quite nicely with some of our other departments as well.
And when anyone comes along who's a new valuer, it's great and exciting for the rest of us to learn something from them and share their knowledge and just sort of so I'm now more interested in comics than I was this time last year, so it's great. So what's some of the exciting lots that we've had this year?
We've had some absolute belters, one of which I think you're probably more equipped to talk about than me, because you were fundamentally involved in cataloguing it, which was the John Lennon portrait by Stuart Sutcliffe.
That was a highlight personally, and I think for all of us, wasn't it? It was fun.
Yeah.
That was an exciting one. So the guy brought it in out of the blue. We quickly established that it had in fact been in John Lennon's house and got a lot of interest, a lot of media interest, all the major papers. And there was a good attendance on the day, wasn't there, for the sale, which was great to see. It
was great.
Busy sale room.
Really good price in the end. I think it was over 20,000 for it.
Yeah.
Really great provenance, and it's so unusual to have something like that come in. And you did some fantastic work matching that off against the
well, I mean, it was for me, it was like a busman's holiday. As soon as it came in, I thought, right, I'm going to get my teeth into this one.
Yeah. Other stuff on the memorabilia side, we have of royal interest is always high, and we have Princess Diana's dress for her fitting. And that we sold, I think, back in the autumn.
Oh yes, I remember that one.
And that sold for, including premium, 20,800. It was designed by Jacqueline Mills, and we had an estimate 4,000 to 6,000 on it, and it absolutely flew on the day. Really, really strong interest in it. Anything royal, anything Diana, you're just not going to find another one.
No.
So that was another highlight on the memorabilia.
Sometimes you're saying these, and I'm like, was that really this year?
I know, it does seem a long time ago. And obviously we've started doing standalone sporting memorabilia sales as well, and Tom Duggan's heading those up, and they've done really well. So I guess some of the highlights there would be the Wimbledon sale we had, a single owner collection of Wimbledon tennis memorabilia, but also Glenn Hoddle's number 10 shirt from Tottenham Hotspur. And that sold for a total price of 19,500.
Oh yes,
back in the summer.
Yeah, that was good. Whereas the Hoddle and Waddle record, if that came into my department, probably wouldn't sell very well at all.
No. What was that called? That one?
Was it called Diamond Lights?
That's right, Diamond Lights.
It was absolutely, and you can look at it on YouTube, and it's absolutely hilarious.
But we've had some Bond sales as well. They're going strong. We've got another one to come this year. But Bond, funny time for Bond, because we're still waiting for the announcement of who the new James Bond will be. But the interest is still very much there. And my personal favourite of the James Bond lots this year were the sort of quite candid photographs we had from RAF Northolt.
Remember those? They were, one of a kind, never seen.
Yeah. And they were taken by the station photographer and our consigner, who's photographed in them with Bussy Galore, so Honor Blackman, and Howard Sakata, who's Odd Job. They're really great, one of a kind, one-offs, and
great when that sort of stuff comes in.
Yeah,
you're one of the few people in the world who's ever seen it when you're looking at them.
Complete one-offs, and they've just been sat in a drawer for decades, and out they came and did really well. I think about 5,000 or 6,000 on those. So the Bond stuff's going great guns, and we've got some more really exciting Bond stuff to come next year as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Never had one of the cars, have we?
Never had one of the cars. That would be nice.
Yeah.
No, not yet. But obviously, there's other areas of collectibles as well that have done well. And James Spooner, who is our regular on this podcast, but he also does our retro video games, and he is now taking on our trading cards as well into next year. So we're going to really push that even more because the Pokemon is just so hot right now. It's going so well.
I'll admit that's one of the areas I just don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, you can't understand everything, and the cards to me, I'm bewildered. All I know is they do well.
Yeah.
People want them.
Yeah. The modern stuff even is doing so incredibly well at the minute.
Yeah.
It's not quite at the heights of lockdown, but certainly some of the prices. We've got a sale coming up in December, and we've got some of the foreign language sets there, like Neo Destiny and others, and they are really popular because they're quite rare. They were just printed in smaller numbers, so German, Italian coming up.
And of course, with he's still doing the video games, and that's a department I really do love and know well.
And you know well, our top video game lot of the sale of the year. Did you know what that was?
Was that yesterday? There was a high one yesterday.
It was. We did have a high one yesterday, which was
the Game Boy and Watch Egg. Was it?
Yeah, the Watch and Egg Nintendo. Says widescreen on it, but the screen's about 2 inches. Yeah. But no, it was our N64 GoldenEye.
Oh well, should have got that one.
Yeah. Which I loved playing.
What I've noticed that the very vintage game stuff, say 70s, 80s, your sort of TV things, gone off a bit, not doing so well. But what's doing really well is the more like 90s onwards.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love the really retro stuff, but like your Commodores and Spectrums, it's always worth taking, but gone off the boil a bit. And it's that sort of it's very much the sort of Nintendo era onwards. You can't get enough of that.
I completely agree. And we had a load of PSP stuff in yesterday that was doing really well. I never had a PSP, but
I missed that one
reasonably well. But you're right. I think what it is just people now are getting into their 30s, 40s.
It's the age of the buyer, isn't it? So nostalgia plus disposable income.
That's it. Absolutely. I mean, I played a bit of the Spectrum and things like that when I was younger, but certainly anything Nintendo, PS1, PS2 even.
Yeah.
Well, but as far as I'm aware, we're still the only auctioneers who are doing standalone video game auctions in the UK.
I'd say one thing I'm surprised we haven't had more of is arcade cabs.
Yeah.
You know, from Space Invaders to Space Harrier to Star Wars. I'd love to get an original Star Wars one in.
Yeah.
So where are all those these days?
Well,
they must be out there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of resellers on those, but we have got quite a cool item. I hope is coming in January. James will be able to speak more about it, but we've got a Game Boy kind of console.
I've seen the picture.
In the shops as a display, and it's actually working, and you can plug the games. It's got slots for multiple games in there, so look out for that one. Hopefully in February's auction.
Sort of thing you would have seen in Electronics Boutique back in the day.
Yes, that's it. But so that's a real growth area, and it continues to be. And we're actually expanding those sales next year, so we'll have live sales and time sales, and they'll be every couple of months. So
great. Long may they continue.
Be busy. Yeah, and the cars have done really well this year as well. The classic cars, and Matt's done a great job at building that department up. The highlight lot for me, and that was the Jaguar XJ140 that we had, and that sold at 30,000 on the hammer on that back in June.
Great thing about the cars is the visibility. You can't come to Ewbank without seeing them because they're there outside, and the nostalgia goes off, and you're like, oh, look at this. Or even if it's an old Metro or something, and can't help but have a look.
So they always grab people's attention. You're right on the way in, but there's lots of there's a bit of crossover with buyers there. So you've got your watch collectors who often own and buy and sell classic cars, and so there's some real showstoppers we've had, and we just sold a Model T Ford. This week, was it this week? I'm losing track, John, before Christmas.
Was it this week?
Yeah, it was, I think it was. But Model T Ford, and that sold at 12,000 hammer. And,
oh, wow,
so
great.
That was a really good result there.
So obviously there's been a big Jaguar rebrand, and that's caused a lot of controversy. Maybe it'll be, who knows, maybe it'll be amazing. But I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, and people think that the price of used classic cars is going to rocket because a lot of people are not convinced by new cars with all the tech, don't necessarily want it all. So people like Harry's Garage, there's a lot of feeling that the price of classics being probably 90s and before is only going to increase. So it could be a real.
I think so. I think it's probably been in the doldrums a bit up till this point, but I've heard similar things in that it's likely to improve because of those very same things. There is a kind of an area where some of the less kind of high-end classics, anything that has these, you have to pay ULEZ on to get into London and stuff, it's probably a bit tricky. It's an area that I'm sure will carry on growing, and Matt's doing a brilliant job with it.
Oh, and he's great,
What else? Toys and models. We've had some. This is a new one on me, but Hot Wheels, apparently. Hot Wheels cars
are they picking up
becoming
traction?
Really collectible.
Or friction, should I say?
Friction. We had a couple of really good dinky cars in our last auction, which was in October, I think, including a Hot Wheels car there, and that sold for around about 4,000, I think, on the hammer.
Did it? I missed that one. How exciting!
A rarity, and I think something like only 14 of these with this particular stripe on the car. So that's what we call a sleeper for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But
one oddity I liked this year was a collection of phones and clocks. And I think some of them did quite well, but I just love the unusualness of them.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
They were great to see in the sale room. Always good to come and have a look here if you can, and just look around at the stuff, because it can be quite fun.
Yeah, that was Peter Lepine Smith's collection.
That was
he was an engineer, and he also had a love of the circus, and he was a trapeze artist and trainer. Yeah, he did some stuff with the Blue Peter people. And did some training.
John
with them
Noakes probably give it a go, knowing him.
But his house was incredible, and we met his widow, who was really lovely, at the property, and he had wired the whole house up for the electrics for the phone, and so he had so many phones, electric clocks.
Oh, I wish I'd seen
all
that
over
house.
the walls. Yeah, a lot of them from factories and things like that. One in particular sold for about 5,000 or 6,000, but. Even, as you say, all the phones, there were dozens and dozens of phones. I want to say nearly 100 probably.
Oh, I had just one I thought of. I had a lovely lady who was the widow of a guitarist in the 60s, a band called the Downliners Sect. And she sold on his guitars, and they did very well, didn't they?
I'd never heard of them before, but
They were... I suppose they started around the same time as the Stones, didn't really achieve the same kind of success, but were pretty big in Sweden. I think they had a number one in Sweden, and carried on in some form or another up until recent years. But
they're quite influential on people like Bowie and things
Bowie
like that.
claimed to be a fan, as did, who else was it? Was it Van Morrison? Someone else? Some big names certainly liked them. And always a pleasure to see that stuff and handle it, and they did pretty well. And in fact, the surprise lot was not a piano accordion, it was what was it called? It was something like a small hand, accordion type thing.
And that did a few thousand, didn't it?
It did a few thousand. I think I put 300 to 500, which I thought, even that was generous. Went absolutely stratospheric.
But even the guitars were selling well from that collection.
So very good. They were nice.
That was an interesting lot. Obviously, we sell lots and lots of jewellery here. It's still our single biggest department as well. So jewellery, watches, and coins. And we've had particular success this year with Royal Mint proof sets. Royal Mint proof sets, let me say again. And we sold Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee set from 1887. This is a fully original set, and that sold for 36,400 with premium back in September. And then following on from that, in our last sale a couple of weeks ago, we had a George V coronation set from 1911 that sold for 19,500. So that some big sales on the coins. Obviously, the precious metal price has been really high all this year anyway, but these were really collectible things in their own right. So that's been going really well, great guns. We've also had lots of modern design sales, and Mark's done well sort of driving those forward, and Scandinavian furniture, modern 20th century stuff. The change in the furniture market is pretty stark, really, I suppose, from 20, 30 years ago in terms of, brown furniture, as they sort of rather disparagingly call it, is still out of favour, but good things will still sell well. For sure. But it's the modern design stuff that's really catching people's eye.
Yes.
And we've got Eleanor Jackson as well, who has been doing the vintage fashion for us, and we've had a lot of success with some of her. Now, I didn't know anything about this, but Bibber. Is it Bieber?
Bieber was great. Right. I've got a Bieber shampoo bottle on my side.
Right.
Rosemary shampoo.
So she's had some really good results with some of those bits and pieces there as well as the kind of the usual suspects and the handbags and Louis Vuitton and all the rest of it. And we've done a couple of quite big charity sales this year as well, and quite proud.
Oh, we had the lovely Jane Horrocks in, didn't we?
Yeah. Jane,
it was fabulous.
Back in September. And that was her idea, the Diary of a Wardrobe auction for Marie Curie.
Yes.
Made £24,000 for the charity.
And she got on the rostrum herself.
She got on the rostrum herself and sold a few lots. We had stuff from David Tennant in there. We had stuff from Jane herself, Julie Walters. Yeah. And Kate Moss and Downton Abbey outfits as well.
Stuff, that got a lot of interest in it.
Yeah. That and also the TLC Transplant Links Community Charity Auction, which made about the same amount of money, about $25,000 back in October. And we had a Grayson Perry print in there that did about 5,000 or 6,000. So it's great to support these charities, and they do incredible work. So thank you to them as well. So
what have we got to look forward to kicking off next year?
So next year we get straight into it. We've got a comic auction that starts the year on the 3rd of January, but we are... another full schedule of sales. We've got some single owner collections confirmed that we can talk about, and some that we can't yet. So, but on the memorabilia side, we've got the Tony King collection of film TV props, which I think is going to do really well. It's a lot of TV stuff there. Things like Sharp. Do you remember Sharp, Sean Bean?
Yes.
Some of that kind of stuff in there. But there's also...
Never watched it, but I knew of it.
Yeah.
Well, I somehow didn't watch, but...
But there's also, some movie stuff in there. There's some stuff from The Mummy, which is pretty popular. Film.
The one with Rachel Weisz, the modern one?
The most recent, the more recent,
not
the early, but it's kind of mid-tier props, but I think that they'll increasingly that's an area that's making really good money. I mean, you only have to look at the slippers that sold at another big auction house recently from the Wizard of Oz, and $28 million they went for last couple of weeks ago.
Wow!
And as those high end things in the memorabilia side are really reaching stratospheric sums, it kind of is pricing out some buyers who are now looking to buy more mid-tier and lower tier items, which in turn is increasing the value of them, I think. We kind of thought this would happen about 10-15 years ago, and it's kind of proved to be the case. It's just growing in popularity all the time.
Can you talk about what's there on the desk, which is something I'm interested in? Is that one we can talk about?
And this is Paul Birkbeck, who was an illustrator for a lot of TV, a lot of it children's things like Jack and Ori, and the last sale that we had on behalf of Paul's family was a couple of years ago now, where we did part 1 of this, which was mostly Jack and Ori. This time we've got lots of other TV things, and I'm hopeful this is going to be coming up for sale January or February. But we've got things like, I don't know if you remember this, Vikings was the show.
It's definitely my era. I was a child in the 70s into the 80s, so I saw all those kind of shows like Jack and Ori. They definitely ring bells, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's something in there that caught my eye.
We'll try and get James to pop some pictures up of some of this stuff, but it's really cool, and he's just a brilliant artist and incredibly prolific. So we've been talking to his daughter.
I mean, just that one drawing on top, that would take me 2 years to draw.
And
and it wouldn't look like that.
Just a lot of it is sort of fantasy related. There's some slightly more religious things in there that were kind of part of Bible stories and things that we read on TV. But I absolutely love it. And in fact, in the last sale, I bought a couple of bits. And
I'm not surprised. I'm sure it was
hanging up. So that's coming up early in the new year as well, alongside in January Contemporary Art and all the other things we've got coming. There's some other single owner collections that are so close to me being able to talk about, but I can't, and as soon as I can we'll maybe catch up with the various valuers on them.
Get back onto the podcast next year. So I'm just hoping Matt gets that one car in that I can't resist, because I'm in the market for a new car. I know he's going to get something vintage that I can't resist.
You didn't fancy the Skoda then?
I did. There's a lot I fancied, but how many of those old cars could you have as an only car? A lot of them are in the second car category, so one day he's going to get that one that's a daily runner, got some character, and I'm just going to have to bid high. I've just, in terms of the year, we've had so many lovely sellers and lovely buyers, and just wanted to say thank you to everyone for this last year, and as well to all of the staff here who've absolutely worked their we can maybe soon take a pause and think about all that, about happy customers and satisfaction of selling, and
So no, thank you to all of our clients over the last year, and I think we've got some really exciting stuff to come this year.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks. Good to speak to you. Cheers, John.
Thank you for listening to the Gavel Gang Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe and take a look at the Ewbank's website for more information on this and upcoming auctions. Until next time, going.